Good afternoon, and welcome to the latest episode of Through the Pages. Today we are discussing a book on one of my favorite topics, microbes. So this has been on my shelf for a while. I Contain Multitudes by Ed Yong. Very satisfying read. Let's get into it here. So I've read a lot of books about microbes, and they all kind of hit different fields. This was a really good general book about microbes, but also, if you saw my review of Animal Kind by Ingrid Newkirk and Jean Stone, that she's the PETA lady. So that book was kind of two parts, half just like awesome things that animals do, and then the other side was a little more vegan-y, I'd say, on why we shouldn't be doing things. But it was a mix of like, I don't want to say hardcore science, but like science for sure. You kind of already have to have an interest, I'd say, on some of it to like be like building on that. But then there was a lot of stories interjected of just like amazing things animals do, or I should say amazing things that happen in the animal world because of bacteria. And so I think through reading this book, just like the amendment to that sentence I made, like we would better understand how to talk about our world or talk about microbes and how we are a part of all of this. And yeah, it was just a fascinating book. It ebbed and flowed where there were parts where I was like, this is thick, this is just getting kind of not dense, but just like almost repetitive, of where I couldn't get in a flow a little bit on it, where it's like page and a half on this, page and a half on this, page and a half on this, and then it was like, what are we talking about here, like in general? So there was some times where like I would get a little off, but I think there's just, you could have a book 10 times this size on microbes and not tell all the cool stories. So like I get it, and you never know what's gonna hit who. So like there was a story about this wasp the bacteria that affected the wasp, that I was like screenshotting to a friend, like, this book is blowing my mind right now. While 2 pages later I might have been like, this is mellowed out by comparison. But I wouldn't say it's the best like introductory book to microbes for people who haven't looked into this subject a lot. Like, I'm a bit of a fanatic on it, if you know me, from running 309 Cultures, a fermented food business, to just reading about them. Got a microbe sweater on right now. You know, microbes rule everything around us, and that I just love learning about them because it's like a never-ending thing. Like there was a point where after I'd been into raw foods for maybe a year or so, I hit a point where it's like I feel like I'd like plateaued, or like I found all the neat things, and it's like, so this is it with like the produce I have and this, and it's like, this is what we got. And then fermentation came in, it's like, oh no, it's literally never ending. There's so much to make. Like I could make new things every day and never finish it all. So this book kind of got back to that joy and that wonder of the world, and that almost reminds you of being a kid, almost, of just that everything is so astounding. Like the kids a parent would ask their question, or the questions a kid would ask their parent that make it so clear, like, wow, you're full of wonder. Like, this brings it back to me. So the other side of that coin, the optimistic, wow, this is awesome, is that, wow, microbes have a lot of power. They can do whatever they want. So going back to that bee, or the wasp, this bacteria knew that it propagated, or it would be 100% success rate in like spreading if it were only like a female population. And so it had a couple abilities that allowed it to, one, figure that out, found a species of wasp that it could put eggs into, and then also was able to get the female to clone itself. So no need for a male. It's like, this bacteria would infect it, male wasp would just disappear, the female wasp would just clone itself and replicate and grow without the need of males, and it was just like, that's the most effective thing for our species. And there were doctors in it that said, there are other bacteria that have some of these abilities. No one has figured it out and then put it into practice, and they did, and it just like goes crazy. So much like we see a little coronavirus ravaging humanity, probably more of that coming. So yeah, they were talking about somewhere like amphibians being just like ravaged by one and stuff, or you see something that can like take out like coffee plants, or you had Panama disease taking out all banana plants, and that was it. It's kind of frightening to look at, to know how much power one of these bacteria has, or microbe, or whatever type of microbe it is, whether it's bacteria, parasite, eukaryote, whatever that may be, how much power they have, and if they were conscious and like could talk and like, hey, we figured out something works over here. Oh, look, I'm there, done. Like, so thankfully they're not sentient to a degree. Kind of debatable, but yeah. Aside from being freaky to read during a pandemic, it's a great introduction to subjects that if you like get your interest piqued on it, you can always go further in. So it had a very small amount about gut health, but what it had was a larger amount on the microbiome of the home, which this is something that, I'm gonna grab it because it's right here. This book, Never Home Alone by Rob Dunn, really opened me up to. So I am a windows open type of guy. At home, not 309 cultures, but at home, am a little bit on the little dirt don't hurt on my produce. Like, I'm not so sterilize everything. So this book helped solidify that, so it wasn't just me being a weirdo hippie that I don't want to clean things, that it's really like, no, there's something to it. I feel better when the windows are open. And so this goes into that, where they had doctors where like people heal faster with the windows open. It's, you close them all up, you're in your own juices, get them open, you're getting microbes in and out. Same with having a dog, brings microbes in and out. That helps against allergies because we toughen up to them. You know, if we're in this super sterile bubble boy environment, we're pretty weak. Like, we need a thick web of microbes. That's analogous to our immune system. Like, you need this thick, roughed up system. And it's like when you see plants growing that have fans blowing on them, so they're getting around, like, you need to toughen up a little bit. And so, to be so microbial or antibacterial everything, I understand it in this era, but to go overboard with it does not strengthen anyone. Little secret for the YouTube viewers: I don't do the sanitizer. I don't. I have no interest in spraying that on my skin microbiome multiple times a day. We have gotten so disconnected from microbes, and I say we, meaning the general population. Most living in cities, little like sealed hermetical boxes up, and I just think that's going the wrong way. I'm not saying that apartment living in Chicago can't be done, but I'm just saying, like, I care about my health and would never do that. So I'm very grateful to have a yard. I can go put my bare feet on the earth and do these type of things and really kind of be part of nature, which is what humans are, nature, but sometimes we lose sight of that. And I think understanding the world a little bit more, not just how humans dominate it, but how we're a part of it in a relatively recent part. He opens up the book with a really good analogy of, the Earth's been around, I think he says 4.54 billion years. And so, that's an impossible amount of time for us to like get our head around. Think of it as if the whole lifespan of Earth is one calendar year. Right now, whatever the current moment is, would be the last moment of December 31st. Microbes came into the mix somewhere mid-March. Humans, basically at the end of the year. December, if I remember correctly, might have been mid-November. But yeah, all the beings that we're used to seeing are new, relatively. And so microbes have evolved, and like this is their place. And so when we recognize how we can work with them, it not only keeps our health better and our world a little bit more attuned to what it should and shouldn't be doing, but it allows us to make massive progressions that we've been ignoring. My business is in fermented foods. I spread microbes all through our community, but I spread them indiscriminately. I cultivate the strains I can and push them out and cross my fingers, but as years and technology comes, we will be able to see what microbes a person has, what's ailing them, and what microbes we need to add, and what ones are in there that we want to eliminate. How are they being fed? How is that cluster being formed, and reduce it. And so by balancing the bacteria, knowing what strains do what, knowing that it's a genuine supplement of it, it's not just, I bought this at a health food store, it's got a really nice label, and that's probably good, right? Like, it was like $40 for it, it's probably better. Like, yeah, from a more trusted or natural way, what I would say. I hope that those two fuse, but I feel like they will not. I feel like it's going to become a pharmaceutical industry thing, but it's a more effective approach than chemicals. And those are mostly just band-aids of the, hey, these are the symptoms I'm having, this will make those not happen. Is kind of what I see things as now, where this gets a little bit more to, hey, this is happening, let's check your microbiome. That might tell us what is causing those symptoms you're in here for. And so it's hard for me to imagine it not being done in kind of a pharmaceutical medical industry way because of the scale of it. But I do think it gets us a step closer to the natural world being part of our medicine. Might go down in history as a dumb thing I've said in hindsight, but I'm optimistic relentlessly. So this book, I Contain Multitudes, by Ed Yong, it's his only book. He's a very well-known science writer, and his I hope he writes more. Like, this was fascinating, but it sounds like he wasn't too keen on writing the book from the acknowledgments in the end. Said one guy kind of really nudged him, a couple emails. He said, hey, I'm going to let you know I'm not writing a book. You can stop pestering me. And then, like, he sent him emails a couple weeks later, like, backtrack, I do want to write a book. And he's like, totally good, let's write it. And so, like, I'm glad the dude was there to, like, work with him and get it out, because the earth is better to have more books like this out here. Whatever can make science a little bit, not just interesting, but grab someone to it, whether that's a cool cover or a good recommendation, or just it's mixed in with a bunch of awesome stories of animals. Like this squid, the Hawaiian bobtail squid that doesn't cast a shadow, which was just so fascinating to me. So predators at night will see the light of the moon, and see, oh, shadow, something's up there. What this squid has all on its belly are microbes that glow, similar to moonlight. So when it's up there, it casts a glow, and that light of the moon is basically uninterrupted. There's a lot of stories like that in this book. It's hard for me to imagine any humans like reading stories like that and be like, like, that's just bananas to me. So I hope you would read this. If anything, just to the animal stories. Like, I don't necessarily read all these micro books saying like, read this, change your diet, or read this, buy 309 Cultures. Like, read this and appreciate microbes is where I'm coming at. So yeah, Ed Yong knocked it out of the park on this. I think it's a book I'll revisit and appreciate more and more. Like I said, there were some parts that I think I would come off of like really fantastical stories or something that I was kind of familiar with, so I could grab it a little bit more, and I would get into something that was a little more like out of my comfort zone, which is obviously, why we read, we want to learn. But like, I think as I continually thicken my web of understanding of microbiology, I think I'll come back to this and be like, geez, he was dropping knowledge in this. So yeah, major shout out to Ed Yong. This book is incredible. Go pick it up at your local bookstore.